Next up, we are going to have Dave come up and tell his story and do all his stuff. He's been around for a long time, and interestingly enough, Dave has been, gosh, Dave, I mean, like, I think probably I'm going to say 95, 97 when you hit downtown Austin?
A little later than that, but yeah, I've been around for a while.
But it was got to be pretty close to that at
Yeah,
least,
yeah.
right? Yeah. Anyway, but I started since the studio was in '93, but it was just a little bit after that that Dave kind of started doing stuff downtown. So, anyways, without further ado, come on
Oh,
up,
sure.
Dave.
Right
Yep.
on.
Congrats.
Thanks, everybody. What's happening? Recent graduates. Yeah, get that out of here, would you?
I know, right?
My name's David Messier. I'm an artist, a writer, producer, and a studio owner. And I've been all those things for a long time. And I'm kind of feeling right now inspired to tell you something, like right off the bat, instead of leading with my story. And that is to tell you that I can tell you the secret as to how to stay in the music business. Pretty incredible. It is don't stop. And that literally is it. I am still here because I have not stopped. And there have been probably 15 good times that I should have, you know, or could have, or might have, but I didn't. And now I own my own recording studio, and art is my full-time gig. But I'm saying that to you as a 46-year-old man. I started this journey, you know, really when I was I started recording music when I was 14 years old. So I also want to share that meant that I slept on a futon till I was 33. Well, I saw my other friends, you know, buy BMWs and, you know, get promotions at the law firm or whatever. But I'm still here, and I cannot stress enough that that is the most important part of being in the arts, is that you don't stop. And there's going to be some hard times, you know, especially if you're forging your own path. They're going to be there. But the one guaranteed way to never be out of the industry is to just not stop. You know, you're going to get kicked around a lot. If you're doing anything interesting, you sure will be. You know, but I promise you, you can do it if you just don't stop. Does that make sense? I started writing music as early as I remember hearing music. I've always had this little private radio station in my head, and I've been writing songs. I can remember being 8 years old and writing songs. While everyone else was playing kickball at the playground, I was singing to myself. You know, songs about, you know, heartache and things I knew nothing about, but, you know, I was copying Michael Jackson or whatever I was listening to on the radio. I just have always done it and wanted to figure out how to record. The first important thing that happened to me was I was in a bar band when I was like 15 years old. Everybody in the band was, you know, older than me, and they would have to sneak me in to play. And I had a teacher in high school. I was, to say the least, a little bit of a troubled kid in school, you know. And this one teacher took a little bit of interest in me, and he said, you know, my brother manages this band in Providence, Rhode Island, and they record at this place called, I'm originally from Massachusetts, recorded at this place called Celebration Sounds in Pawtucket, Rhode Island. I said, okay, and when I looked up that studio, they were teaching a class. Of course, it was, you know, 2-inch, 24-track tape, you know.
What year was this?
This is probably 94.
Okay.
You know, and how do you teach a class? You got to record somebody. Mm-hmm. So I went down there and finagled, you know, my little terrible bar band to be the band that they recorded. Mm-hmm. So we came in and played, and we weren't very good at all. I mean, we wrote our own songs because when we tried to cover songs, it did not go well. Right. So it was all original material because we had no other choice, you know. And
well, that's the curse of a good cover band, right? Is that they don't write good songs because they cover them well.
We had the opposite, curse. We had no choice but to write a song because
It's the bad bands that become good because they write their own music.
Yeah, we were so bad. If we wanted to get a second gig, we'd have to change our name. No one would hire us twice knowingly, right? So I became we were the band that they recorded. Now, so every Wednesday night, every Saturday, Sunday, we would go record. Now the other guys in the band didn't care about the recording. They thought we were making a record. But I just sat in the room with all the other students and basically took audio 1, 2, and 3 over the course of 3 years for free. It was wild, and I learned it and got really into it, and started gathering up equipment and just kept recording myself. I was probably 20 years old when I took over the basement of my dad's office building and turned it into a recording studio, which in retrospect I should have discussed with him first. But that actually came in handy when I got some people in there making a lot of noise, and he wanted to get us out of there. So I was like, well, could you co-sign and help me rent a place? I'll get out of your hair. So as John said, at a certain point, we're celebrating 15 years here in Austin now. Myself and an engineer named Andre Kantov, who's worked with me the whole time. We moved ourselves in the studio down here, and eventually bought this funky, quirky property on the east side that used to be a church and converted it into our studio. Let me see, do I have it?
See if we can get it up on screen too.
Let me see what I can do here.
I think I saw Ben just get some food. So.
Oh, it's not up there yet?
No,
Okay.
he will. No, go for it. Get it up there. There he goes. He's got it up there now.
Oh, okay, yeah, rock and roll. So, we've got this beautiful studio. We just celebrated our 15th anniversary in Austin, and I really kind of can't believe it. There were, again, plenty of times to stop. Mm-hmm. So, plenty of times where, again, your buddy, I just took the mic off. Your buddy gets the BMW,
You can just clip that thing on your shirt if you want, rather than use the magnet.
Let's try that.
There you go.
I'm too powerful for magnets, I guess.
There you go.
Or what is that? Is that negative energy that would make it fall off?
Well, it's probably fluctuating energy.
Yeah, I'm a mess. So, I've been doing this for a long time, and the real trick, the real success in the arts is to be able to do it. When I was 18 years old, I thought I didn't really have a plan. I thought any minute now I'm going to be famous, obviously. I'm tremendous at this, writing amazing songs, so I don't have to put a lot of thought into it. I'll be a millionaire any minute now, But what I've come to learn is that getting to do what you want and making a living at art is so rare. I mean, you're talking about, a percentile that's got to be something like professional sports, Mm-hmm. So, this is cool. There's a reason to celebrate accomplishing something in this business, Mm-hmm. And I don't know if every business is full of crazy people, but ours is. I don't know if the guy that owns the Burger King is dealing with the same stuff that we deal with. Maybe everyone's just nuts, but certainly everyone in our industry is.
I say high maintenance.
That's nice.
Yes.
Yeah, it's funny. My niece and nephew always say, Uncle David's crazy, and I say, hang on now, Uncle David's colorful. Let's not be pejorative. So, I still write and perform music, and I've got a new project coming out, but that's not where I make my living. The real money comes from having the studio, and we've got 2 engineers at the studio, Andre and Emily, the assistant, and we do a number of different things there. We do what we call day rate stuff. People come in and rent the studio for a day, and we're just engineers, but we're not producing. We're engineers. We do what they ask us to do. And then we work as producers on projects, which is, very hands-on for me. That's the thing that I like to do, where we'll work, through the song in its entirety. We'll help. Sometimes they need help writing a bridge, or putting the right musicians together, get really involved in that process. And then this really strange thing happened in like around 2008 or 9. We kind of started hosting events at the studio. We were like, well, Austin's a music town. Everyone seems to think it's so cool. And that's become its own little subset business for us, where we've connected with tech companies, and we have them come in and we do workshops for them at the studio. And people have rented out the studio to have political fundraisers. And it's crazy. People will actually pay us more to stand in there and drink a cocktail than they will to use the $500,000 of equipment that's in there. It's like, from a business standpoint, that's really frustrating, because all the gear could be empty. It could just be just a bunch of knobs around.
Well, for all the events though, then you've got built-in AV, right? So
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and that's come in very handy too. And the industry changes so much, but one thing I would like to impart on y'all is to remember that, whenever you're working with a client, that we are in the service industry. We are a service industry, and you can't just have blinders on, looking at the computer, adding your plugins, making everything sound great. Sure, it's got to sound great, but people can do that at home, and that's not going to change. It's only going to get easier, and AI is going to continue to change that as well. I'm not afraid of AI at all because I'm in the service business. If I looked at it like I'm just in the audio business, maybe there's something to be concerned about, but not me. But we're in the service business. So you come work with us, you've got a space that has a vibe, that has a staff, that has, you're a rock star when you're with us, no matter who you are, and we're trying to get the best out of you, And maybe, someday we'll be able to, stick a 1/4-inch jack right into the side of your head and hear exactly what's going on, But until that point, I want to be the best at getting that music that's playing in your head out and into a format that we can hear it.
Well, hopefully it's just a head cap.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, my God, that Vision Pro, I don't want to talk about it. But, the technology is going to keep changing, and we should be excited about it, not afraid of it. You have to be, but in order to keep that attitude, you got to become a master, all right? AI is not going to be able to mess with a master artist, but it will be able to mess with weekend warriors, and it will be able to mess with people that aren't terribly dedicated to their craft. If you like dragging and dropping, the world's just going to get better for you,
right.
But if you're like me and you want to get your hands dirty, there'll still be a place for us if we continue to create. Is any of this making sense?
Yeah.
I was going to talk about totally different stuff, and I saw you guys get those certificates, and here I went. And I'm happy to answer any questions anyone has at any point. How long have I been talking?
Don't worry, I'll cut you off whenever it's too long. No worries.
So, do you want to hear more about the studio itself, or how we get creative in there?
Go ahead. Yeah, if you have questions. Oh, no.
No? Okay.
Brandon.
Yeah.
I was wondering if you could walk through some of your mistakes that you've made along the way to explain to some of us maybe what not to do.
Oh, sure. Yeah. Oh, my God. Okay. Let's... Yeah. No, there's plenty. There's plenty. First and foremost, having an ego of any kind. And every young person does, but it's going to get beat out of you at some point. So it's best to know that, you're not always going to have the best idea. And there's somebody, a couple doors down from you that's probably better at it than you. And there's nothing wrong with that. Again, it's about perseverance. So learning to set aside egos and actually be collaborative, I think it probably took me, I think I was immature, when I started, and it took me longer than it should have to really, I thought I was being collaborative, but I wasn't, I was kind of secretly bummed out when we didn't do my thing. Right. And that's not helpful, so to be open. How real can we get in here?
I mean, you can get real.
Yeah,
Like
I mean,
dirty
I would-
language or something? Or-
No, I would say, there's a lot of eccentric personalities in this business. There's a lot of people that will take advantage of your time. You know, you've got to, I would add to that list then setting boundaries, you know. There's also a lot of drugs and alcohol in this business. And so I would add to that list, you know, I would say don't do cocaine.
Mistake number one.
It really turns, I've seen it turn a lot of people mean, you know.
Sure.
But it can be a celebratory environment. If you're out playing gigs, you know, what happens? Someone comes up and says, I'll get you a drink, you know. Mm-hmm. So I'm giving you real advice now, you know, have expensive taste. If someone offers to buy you a drink, get a real good one, but just one, you know.
There you go.
But then that's how you do it.
Yeah, well, what I always say is no drugs in the studio, and then we bill by the hour, so then they have to respect your time, right? So.
Yeah. You know, it's just when you're in that moment and you're being creative with someone, sometimes it's so hard to stop, you know. And I've got pretty good boundaries about that now. I like to be creative from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. And at 6 p.m., I stop. We would have to be in the middle of something very important for me to keep going. And generally, what I like about that is now I know where to start tomorrow. You know, I have a place to pick up. If you stay up all night and you keep banging at it, you lose perspective real quick. Mm-hmm. It's important to leave the studio, you know. You can't just sit in front of the screen for the rest of your life. You got to get out there and see the sun and see what your contemporaries are doing. Don't relegate it just to the studio. Go to the museum, go to a photography exhibit. See what people your age are creating and doing in terms of your comments on client creation. Mm-hmm. You know, that's not just going to happen at nightclubs. That could happen anywhere. You have to be a part of the scene. So another mistake I probably made was really siloing myself and locking myself in the studio for days on end working on something when, you know, I should have had that attitude earlier in my career where the real stuff is happening out there, you know. We're making this in here because we want people to enjoy it out there. You know, we want people to drive too fast and throw frisbees or whatever it is you want them to do to your music. Those are two activities I think music is really good for, amongst others. But, you know, you got to keep a foot in the real world. So don't let your ego get in the way. Remember to listen. Music's invisible. You know that, right? Do you guys cover that as a topic?
No, I'm not sure what you mean.
I mean that our art is invisible. And so much of the learning involves looking at the waveform, looking at the lights. You actually don't need any of that. You can just use your ears. Mm-hmm. And the art that we make is literally invisible. It comes out of speakers. You hear it. You can't see it.
Yeah.
So what are we looking at it for? Remember to listen. Our ears tell us what to do, not the lights, not the blinking lights, you know. I'll say that sometimes to our assistant. Why are you turning it down? Well, it's red. Red's not a sound, you know. I don't hear anything that I don't like, but it's red. Like, and? It sounds good.
You should say, I like red.
Yeah, leave it, you know.
Red's working.
Leave it. What are we looking at it for?
Yeah.
You know, do we have to cover all the lights up with tape? I've done that before. Stop looking at it.
Yeah.
Stop looking at it. We have to listen to it because we want people to listen to it. Mm-hmm. You know, if we have fun, they'll have fun. Did I answer your question?
Absolutely.
Okay.
I'm sure you can continue to answer with
Yeah.
the experience you have. I'm sure you can.
Yeah, just lots of mistakes, you know, lots of mistakes. And you know, I also didn't have the resources that are available now. I mean, there wasn't a school like this. You know, there wasn't a click on the internet to find out what everybody's doing everywhere. You know, it's amazing. I watched my other niece and nephew go through high school and college, and they were in high school using audio computer programs. Our high school didn't have anything. We didn't have computers, you know? So it's exciting to see what's available to people, and my hope is that that helps you make less mistakes, you know, because there's so much more, you know, learning to be done. Not like engineering was the dark arts or something in the 90s, but it just wasn't, you know, oh, here's another mistake I made, and it's actually tied into what you said about going out on your own before you go someplace, you know, can you get someplace? But you still need a mentor, you know? You still need to find somebody in the industry with some experience that's willing to have a cup of coffee with you, or that you can bother with some questions. Because, you know, I don't know, pristine isolation isn't always the best thing for people. Although I actually really enjoyed COVID. I was by myself a lot. But you know, again, to have, to have your foot in the community, it's the people you meet that are gonna make the things happen. And there's really no substitute for that. At this point in my alleged career, I would rather work with a person who's easy to hang out with, even if they weren't as talented as this other guy, you know? Well, this is the greatest drummer, you gotta get this guy. And then they come in the studio and they're a pain in the ass. And it's like, well, I'm not working with this guy again. I would gladly take a much less talented person who it's not a disaster to spend a day with, you know? So much of it is about the hang. You know, you're doing creative work with someone for hours at a time. It's a pretty intimate thing. You learn about each other. People are being vulnerable. If they're doing it right, they're allowing themselves to be vulnerable. And it can take a lot out of you. So, you know, you gotta listen and be aware and have boundaries. So the rules that I use in the studio, when I'm producing, I say to each artist, rule number one, don't be afraid. It's just a recording studio. You make a record, and then you have the rest of your life. That's what happens every time. You know, there's no reason to put more pressure on it than that. This isn't the thing that's gonna change your life. Or it is, but it doesn't matter while we're working on it. You know, nobody uses the, sorry, it must be the allergies in my voice today.
It's all good.
We don't use the H word in the studio. Nobody says the word hit. Because everything's a hit in the studio. Everything sounds great in the studio. Speakers are great, you're listening to it loud, you're really proud of what you just did. Doesn't matter. So don't be afraid. Really, the consequences are not that intense. We're not EMT workers, you know what I mean? So rule number one is don't be afraid. And rule number two is to let it be new. What I mean by that is I've seen over the last 20 years, so many artists come into the studio that have been practicing, which is a good thing to do. To come into the studio and record how well they have practiced. And in my experience, that does not necessarily make a great recording or record. That you do all of that practicing so that when you get in the studio, you have the opportunity to let it be new. Let a new thing happen while the microphones are rolling. It takes a lot of courage, which is why you can't be afraid, you know, to be vulnerable while the microphones are rolling, to go for it, to sing the worst note anyone's ever heard. But you gotta have the confidence and courage to do that, or nothing interesting is gonna happen. It's gonna be a watered down representation of how well you've practiced. So rule number three is to be bold. Go for it. There's so much music out there. I hate to break it to you. We don't need any more rock songs. There's so many already that if we started today and spent the rest of our lives listening, we couldn't get to them all, you know? So making mediocre music just doesn't make any sense to me. So I've found that by following those three tried and true principles, we can get to something more creative than where we started. It's kind of a long-winded way to say don't have too much reference for your own ideas or other people's ideas. There's always something new that can happen. And you practice so much because the studio is an expensive place to be. But if you're well rehearsed, it can be a creative place to be. Does that make sense? Far out. I'm making sense. Does anyone have any other questions? Yeah.
Mine's kind of a two-parter. You talk a lot about the vibe and just kind of the environment at the studio. How do you navigate kind of the line between making an artist feel comfortable, but also kind of taking ownership of what's going on and kind of leading and steering the session?
Yeah, great question. Well-timed breaks, you know? I mean, anyone in a session with me will probably hear me 10 times say, all right, go see the sun. Get out of here. I don't want them sitting, if we track something and it's got to just be cleaned up, edited a little bit before we overdub, I don't want them in there sitting over our shoulders. Go see the sun. Get out of here. Go walk around the building and come back. You get a new person every time. You know, it's when you're stuck in these close quarters together that people go nuts, you know? And they're going to need permission. They're going to need permission to do that because they're trying to be good artists and good with their money and watching everything that's happening and making sure this is going well. And it's like, no, we got you. We got you. That's why we're here. Go see the sun and come back, you know? And having a schedule, managing expectations, letting them know. They hear my speech. They know I work from 10 to 6, you know? So, you know, don't decide you want to cut the didgeridoo at 5:45 to 6, you know, because I'm not going to do it. And generally when you get all the hard conversations over with at the beginning, you get a couple days before someone starts really pushing the boundaries. Then you just got to stand up for yourself. Yeah. Second part.
Yeah, I guess the second half of that was, you'd also talked about the ability to record at a high level becoming a way more common thing. It's something that people can do from home, and people are recording on their phones and everything else like that. As that becomes more popular and more effective, how do you kind of relay the value of a studio experience versus just being able to get it done on your own and then kind of punch it up from there?
Yeah, right on. So, you know, the trick to me and for us has been to encourage the home recorder, not look at it like they're different things, that the more conventional studio and the home studio can work really well together. Especially now, as file sharing is so easy. I mean, doing this back, you know, when Pro Tools was on an SD2 file and Digital Performer had a different file, and you couldn't just take something from someone's house and make it work easy. Now, anything can do. So it becomes, for me, it's about communicating that to all the home producers and artists that I know. Because yeah, you can put up a fantastic vocal mic and put a nice shield around it and record vocals at home, absolutely. Nothing can stop you. And even if you have 4 great mics, you'd think, well, I could record a string quartet. Well, not if it's raining, right? You know, so the controlled environment, the reason these rooms are conditioned and proofed the way they are is not just to keep our noise from getting out, it's keeping everyone else's noise from getting in, you know? So, you know, there'll always be a time that you need to go to a controlled environment to record something either incredibly loud or incredibly delicate that you know, probably shouldn't do in apartment 22B of whatever building, you know, you're in. And keep your leash, right? So, I mean, we have clients that record their guitars direct, send it to us, and we reamp it and send the files back to them. I've never met them. And we have people that come with all the acoustic stuff already done. And they come to us just to cut drums and put some loud guitars on it, or to add the string section, or for our Rolodex of session musicians, you know? I mean, one of the really great things about Austin is we got A players. I mean, we looked for a client recently. We have 3 harpists in our Rolodex. 3? Cool, you know? So the studio becomes a resource. Like, we want to be a part of the community where, you know, we're here to help whatever it is that you're doing. You know, you don't have to start and stop with us. Let us be a part of it. And when you keep that attitude of being open to it and not like, well, you're just doing that, it's not what we're doing, then it's actually pretty easy to work together.
You know, one thing I would say too is, you know, so many artists these days, you know, you're gonna have a beat, a rap, or maybe a song or something, right? And they're just slapping things together. So, you know, having the ability to receive files like that and then do magic with them is what really is gonna set you apart.
Yeah.
You know, taking even a stereo track, redoing things, adding, you know, pads, creating a shape for the song, putting the hook in the right places, you know, I mean, these are things that artists can't do on their own, possibly, right? I mean, and so
Yeah.
you're always providing a service that they can't do on their own, right? And that's a big deal.
Yeah, and again, there's the word service, right? I mean, you know, and again, that's really the studio setting, but I think it's a good attitude to have as an independent engineer or producer that, you know, you are supposed to be bringing something important to the table, you know, and it's not just, you know, how fast you are with your, you know, Pro Tools shortcuts. It's you know, human to human connection and building trust. Once you get an artist that trusts you and they're happy with the result, you've probably got a client for a while, you know, probably a good long while.
I always say the irony is like the home studios made, you know, people with skills more valuable.
Yeah.
More people get into it and then realize what they don't know, right? Very fast, and then find somebody that can.
And then they're
can make it
calling us
happen.
and handing over all these files, and we're going, all right. 2 of these we should probably just start over, but we can work with half of them maybe, you know.
Right.
Anyone have another question? Something I could be helpful with? Yeah, please.
What genre of music do you like to write, and what instruments do you play?
Oh, right on, man. So I like rock and roll, and I know that doesn't really mean anything anymore. It sounds pretty dated. If you follow it all the way back, you know, the roll was the dotted eighth note, and it was always a shuffle. To me now, I think the roll is the fun. My music doesn't take itself terribly seriously, and I try to avoid minor keys and play upbeat rock and roll music in the tradition of rock, rhythm, and blues. I feel like there were 2 questions there.
What instruments do you play?
Oh, I'll play anything.
Any instrument.
I will play anything. I'm not saying I can. This is to the don't be afraid point, you know. But I'm a drummer at heart, so I can play rhythm on anything. I will take any instrument and play rhythm on it. I'm not gonna make it cry, and you know, I don't go up the dusty end of the neck. But I play drums, piano, bass, guitar, all kinds of percussion.
I didn't realize drums were your first instrument. I didn't realize
Yeah. Well, no, my first instrument was trombone, but but that was just because I was last in line. Because you know, back in the '80s in the public schools in Massachusetts, not only was there a music program, but they gave you an instrument. And I was, you know, goofing around in line, waiting to, and they kept putting me at the end of the line. So everyone went in and got an instrument, and when I went in last, what do you got? Trombone.
There you go.
Because who the hell wants to play the trombone? And
Well, be thankful you didn't end up with the tuba. Or
I know.
something.
I had 2 lessons, and I was terrible at it. And thankfully, the teacher, you know, saw what I'm like, you know, and he's like took it from me and handed me 2 drumsticks, and I was off and running. I'll hit anything with a drumstick. Sounds great. I could play a piece of music if you wanted to hear it.
Yeah, let's hear it.
This will just be a second. Oh, this is my new project, David Starbuckle. It's my new nom de plume. And I've made a record that's going to come out the end of September, but I'm showing it in movie theaters. I don't want to go out and play anymore. So you're going to go to a movie theater, sit and watch the album. I worked with 10 different directors, and we made music videos for each piece, and we've kind of woven some sort of story, some vaudevillian story between it with, I don't know, it's like a vaudeville meets Laugh-In meets some kind of variety show. Let's see. I thought I brought something.
Mon, if you want to come, and I think is there a chair right here?
Okay,
Why
cool.
don't you come on in, Mon.
Oh, here's the Pro Tools session, but I know we're up. I'll play
there you
the
go.
finished version. So this is one of the video pieces that, let's see if it plays. The song's called Up and Out. This is not out yet. This is my original piece. Is it working?
Here it goes.
What would it take to try and change the minds of makers? Showing restraint hasn't been great. You put duct tape over your mouth and you call it self-control. It's like reaching into the back for one of the hangers. You tangle and waste the time that remains, and you look the same, there's no doubt. And the lights are on in space. Why do we waste all of our days searching for answers and paying for safe, reliable brakes when the wagon's gone off of the rail? This is my first time showing this to anyone. So
Is that right? Yeah,
to
okay,
mix
cool.
a metaphor. Morning light's about to hit the shades. So everybody up and out. What would it take to stage a great magnum opus? Cello. Explaining the shame that keeps me awake. Viola. Put soft muffs over your
Where's the trombone, man?
There's the trombone.
Is there? Okay.
And then we start again. What if we taped everyone's legs to everyone's elbows and stood by the gate to watch them escape? Leave the hose running, it will be great. And it should remain until all clear. Morning light's about to hit the shades. Everybody up and out.
Why don't we find a beautiful place and claim that it's sacred? And if anyone calls, we'll bring them along.
We won't even have to advertise. And we'll call it common ground. It could be a week, but less than a month, and you'll have your riches. You'll lie on the floor and know that it's yours, but with your back pocket sticking out. But you'll learn to love again. Morning light's about to hit the shades. Everybody up and out. More strings. Morning light's about to hit the shades. Everybody up and out. Morning light's about to hit the shades. Everybody up and out.
There you go. Man, nice. So who'd you have do the animation?
Yeah, a young woman named Alexandra Bug.
Okay. Awesome.
She did that's all hand-drawn watercolor.
Wow.
This it's an hour-long piece. The movie they're going to premiere it at the Austin Film Society on September 26th.
Very cool.
No AI was used in the making of this. It's all humans. We made it with watercolor and duct tape and flashlights, and I feel like it's our last chance to do that.
Yeah.
You know, because this AI is going so fast.
Yeah.
That pretty soon every musician's going to have these outrageous music videos that look like Pixar, you know? So it's like, I want to do one the old way first, you know, really, you know, handheld cameras and, you know, like the skate videos we watched as kids, you know?
Yeah, well, the thing is, I think as that grows, the raw stuff's going to become even more popular.
Oh yeah,
so I don't think there's going to be
It's only
any
going to
problem.
make another Nirvana come out, right?
Yeah,
I mean,
exactly.
there's going to be a real backlash to it.
Oh, yeah. No,
that
sure,
I look forward to. That's my favorite thing about music is it's you can study it forever and never understand it. But there's a 14-year-old kid down the road here that's going to pick up the guitar for the first time, learn 2 chords, and write a song that knocks us all out.
Yeah.
It's just, music still surprises me every day. And, there's only 12 notes. It's like, why can't I figure this out? I'm still so curious about it. Again, I promise you, if you just don't give up, you'll still be in it. I've watched so many people that I thought were so much more talented than me go away because they weren't willing to do X, Y, or Z, or, I don't want to be this poor forever, or whatever it was, I'd like to keep a girlfriend, That's what led to my hours, my becoming a day guy, It's like I got married and I was like, I'd like this to work out, so I'm going to stop work at 6 p.m.,
Right.
I'm not doing this all night anymore. I hope I was helpful in some way, and I'm happy to answer more questions.
Yeah, let's do one more question, and then I'm going to ask my final question. Does anybody have a? Yes, sir, Brandon.
Can you talk us through how you stood up your studio?
How I did what?
How you stood up your studio?
Stood up?
Yeah, like how you got everything set up and then.
Oh, well, okay, so yeah, we, sorry, I didn't understand the term. This was my 3rd studio. So in terms of mistakes there, I had made a bunch already. So this one I was really excited about. It was the first time I owned the dirt. So I could really, it wasn't a lease, I could get in there and do what I wanted to. So
So when you bought that back when?
probably 2011.
Okay. Yeah.
And
Did you had another place right near?
yeah, we
it,
were
though.
downtown
Right.
for a few years before that, but it was
That's right.
Yeah, it was a very tenuous situation there, and I saw the writing on the wall that rents are just going to keep going up, and the only way I can do this is you got to own the dirt. If someone can keep raising my rent, I'm never going to make it.
Yeah.
I got to own the dirt somehow.
Yeah.
So I bought some dirt, and we didn't have the budget to do we don't have a floated floor or anything. We're right on the slab, but we've got, great soundproofing and conditioning from there. It's 3 rooms, a large control room, a large tracking room, pretty large ISO booth, and then there's a lounge and a kitchen and some other facilities. I worked with a builder named Fred Williams, who had built the Tequila Mockingbird studio, and a acoustician named Mark Genfen.
Yeah. Mark Gepchen.
Yeah, who unfortunately has since passed.
Yeah. He's gone now.
And he helped us do all the acoustic design. And we set it up, based on all the mistakes we made before. When you come out of the control room and you go into the cut room, all the cables are right there, So if something's going wrong, you walk through the door, you grab the cable, you can get there and get out of the room in 2 seconds, I've got a separate air conditioner in every room. So there's no drag of air under the door.
Right.
You don't have to hear it, you don't have to feel it. And some rooms, like the control room, all that gear's throwing off heat, and then you get all those bodies in it, So there's a secondary air conditioner, like at a nightclub or something, that I can flip on and just cool the place off, Those are the little things about it that excite me,
Yeah.
Being able to regulate the temperature, keep the piano in tune.
Well, Mark was a great designer.
Yeah.
Of course, it was always too expensive, but
That was the thing,
because he would design just crazy stuff, and you'd be like, I don't know, man, I can't do all that.
I know.
I'd
And
love to, but
he kept saying to me, well, at this budget, David, and I'm like, this budget is all the money I have in the whole world. Stop saying that.
Funny.
And it's called Same Sky Productions, and I could probably answer that in more detail, or you could come see the place if you wanted to.
Yeah. One thing that Dave also didn't talk about, Grammy president. What
I was the president of the Texas chapter of the Recording Academy, the Grammys, and I served on their national board of trustees for a couple of years.
Yeah, so you've been super active in all just the community and everything that's involved in that. you know, the Grammys are, you know, community driven, and we're all you know, the only, probably don't realize it, but the people who win, the people who are nominated are all nominated by us, right? You know, we actually, the Grammy members actually do it. And so anyways, he was just a big role in the Texas chapter.
Yeah, we're fortunate to have that here, and they also have a very active program called Grammy U for younger people and students that would be probably worth looking into. But you know, again, networking, community outreach, it's a chance to meet other people. We are all, especially us studio guys, you know, we're so siloed, and you know, we don't get together much. It's like once or twice a year at one of those Grammy events or the award show itself, we see each other.
Yeah.
I have musician friends in town that I only see in LA. It's like we live, you know, down the street from each other, but we only see each other in Los Angeles because everyone's busy.
Right.
I wonder, I've been wondering, why did you choose Austin or Texas?
Oh, a girl. Yeah.
Yeah, it's the most important thing.
Yeah,
I mean,
you know.
I mean, you don't have any music to write about if you don't have that, right? So. Okay, so I have one question, one last
Sure.
question. So imagine yourself, you know, 18 years old, 20 years old, 19 years old, and you're just getting started, right? So if you were to hang with that person and give them advice, what would it be?
Oh man, I would take them outside and beat the hell out of them. I really would, and say, you know, you're not that great. Shut up. Listen. You know, it's time to start listening. And somebody should have done that. You know.
Well, the years did, right?
Thankfully, the years did, and I'm a much more mature person now than I was then. But the one thing that is definitely consistent is my relentlessness, and that's what I attribute my entire alleged career to. Is that, you know, no one's going to stop me from doing it. It's just not. That's not going to work out well for you. You know, if your goal is to stop me from doing this. So that's always been that part hasn't changed. Thankfully, I'm a better listener, a better collaborator. But I would, if I could only use words, I would tell that guy to start listening more, you know, not assume you have the right answer for everything. Yeah. You know, maybe even assume your answer's wrong.
Assume it's wrong.
Assume it's wrong, and, you know, double check your work. That's what I'd tell him.
Okay, very cool. Yeah, man. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you all, and congratulations. You know, it's all good. Very much.
And yeah, and everybody just, you know, hang out. I'm sure we have a little more food, and we'll spend a little more time just chatting. And by the way, congratulations to Ahmad. He's an associate's degree graduate. So one last congratulations here to Ahmad. Okay, guys. Well, anyway, so we'll hang out a little longer and eat food and take it easy after this. So yeah, appreciate it, man.
Yeah, thank you guys. Thanks
Cool.
again.